Good evening and welcome to the Sunderland Elementary School Committee meeting, public hearing of our FY15 budget. Call the meeting to order at 6:08, and I will turn it over to Superintendent Barrett.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are presenting an FY15 budget in the amount of $2,146,980. This is an increase from this year of $61,248, or 2.94%. In addition, we had retirement costs of $83,290 for 3 teacher retirements, which would have increased our budget an additional 4%. The town of Sunderland has instructed us to include these one-time retirement costs on a separate town warrant to be voted at the annual town meeting. We also have some changes in both our school choice funding and circuit breaker funding, which we will take a look at after review the changes of our proposed budget. And at this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to Business Manager Patty Kavanaugh, who's going to walk us through the narrative of the budget changes.
Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening. You have before you a packet, and the first 4 pages are the narrative, and the numbers that go along with it start on page 1 of 11. And 1 of 11 starts with the summary of changes. So as you can see, we have salary-related costs, and the increase in the cost of contract steps and adjustment is $46,387. This is due to the contractual increase for teachers and instructional assistants of 2%. We have 13 teachers also moving on step, including one who moved to step 14, which is approximately a $5,000 increase before the percentage increase. We have 12 instructional assistants on step, and we are experiencing or expecting a decrease in Title I funding estimated at 10%, and that's money supplements our reading specialist position. We have an increase in instructional assistants of $28,561. Since our last budget cycle, we've had 4 students requiring one aides per their IEPs. All students are new to the district this year. This is not the cost of 4 aides, but is offset by a reduction of 2 aides, which will leave 1 general education aide per grade level. We have an increase in our special education teachers of $44,355. The increase is due to the loss of funding for the Horizons teacher through the circuit breaker funding. So it's just a transfer of the cost of the teacher from circuit breaker to the local budget. It is not a new position. Increase in physical therapy services, $5,939. We needed to increase our physical therapy by 1 day due to increased services in IEPs. We had a decrease in contract adjustments of $17,437. This was due to our last year having to estimate changes for union and non-union salaries, and this year it's union salaries only, non-union, salaries only. We had a decrease in kindergarten salaries of $26,346. This decrease is due to shifting salary costs back to the school choice funding. This was a teacher that we had to hire this year for an additional kindergarten class, and next year she'll be fully paid through school choice monies. We had a decrease in teacher salaries of $40,008. This is due to the retirement of 2 teachers who were both at step 20 masters plus 15, and we're estimating to replace them at step 8 masters, which is approximately $50,127. The next category is other operational increases, and we have an increase in the superintendent's office expenditures of $24,745. Sunderland's percentage of the expenditures increased 1.39% from 12.62% to 14.01% due to the increase Sunderland is experiencing in their student population. Overall, the expenses for the superintendent's office have also increased for salaries, health insurance, and district network expenses. We have an increase in the cost of our Nature's Classroom of $300. This is due to a contracted stipend for the teachers, which increased from $50 per night to $100 per night. We also have an increase in our professional development stipends for our instructional assistants of $2,550. Again, this is a new contractual obligation where we provide $150 per year for each instructional assistant, and here we've budgeted for 17 assistants. We have an increase in evaluations and other services of $13,500. This is due to a required support services in IEPs for a language-based learning disability specialist. We have an increase in our district-wide databases of $2,542. This is also a new account, a new name for this account. It was formerly known as computer registers. The increase here is due to the elimination of standalone servers and converting to cloud computing, which is hosted by Rediker for our student database, as well as the addition of costs for the new OASIS software and the SEMS software. SEMS was not a new software to us, but it was previously paid by the SPED IDEA grant. And like the Title I grant, we are expecting a decrease, so we needed to bring these costs onto our local budget. Increase in other buildings and grounds account. The increase are in two accounts, waste removal and maintenance of equipment. In waste removal, we had an increase in our monthly pickup fee, and the maintenance of equipment is for the cost of copier leases. Increase in maintenance of buildings, $6,050. This is due to the new Siemens contract required for the energy management system that was installed. In order to ensure that we receive the guaranteed services, we need to have this contract in place to demonstrate that we are keeping the system software updated and the system maintained. We have an increase in our regular transportation of $8,210. This increase is due to a new transportation contract, which increases the per-day bus cost from $107.13 per day to $127 per day. There is also an amount budgeted for the fuel escalation clause. We do have some other operational decreases. We have a decrease in our MASC dues. That's the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. This expense is due to using a different allocation methods among the districts, which is more reflective of the allocation method used by MASC in determining the consolidated dues. We have a decrease in principal benefits of $500. This was made. This reduction was made based on an actual cost of benefits over the past 2 years. We have a decrease in sped transportation of $20,000, and this decrease is based upon a 2-year analysis of utilization. We can absorb this reduction and still have a small contingency for new transports which may occur during the year. Decrease in summer transportation, $3,500. Again, we made this decrease based upon actual utilization, and a decrease in the number of students transported. Decrease in heating costs, $15,000. In FY13, we underspent this account by approximately 53%. This was due in part to the new computerized energy management system that was installed, as well as experiencing a mild winter weather. This decrease will allow us to maintain last year's budget and also anticipate a longer, harsher heating season. Very timely. If you change over to page 2 of 11, this is our alternate budget funding sources. And here you can see that we will offset the cost of our preschool tuition with the early childhood tuitions in the amount of $20,000. Title I will pick up $15,348 of our reading specialists, and $94,142, which is the SPED IDA, will pick up $12,193 of speech services. The next projection is our school choice. Currently, our school choice students make up approximately 20% of our student population. There were 37 students out of the 186 of the October 1st census. For FY14, our beginning balance and revenue projections were exceeded by $59,243. However, we also had some unplanned expenditures. We needed to add 2 instructional assistants for new students who required them in their IEP. We also needed to add a kindergarten aide for the new kindergarten class, and we needed to add expenses for a language-based learning disability specialist, which was a service prescribed in students' IEPs. These additional expenses total $61,328, which leaves our estimated ending balance short by $2,085. For FY15, our projected beginning balance is $54,112, with added estimated revenue of $260,210, and that estimate comes from our preliminary school choice report, which was received in December, where they're calculating 38 students at $5,000 each and a sped increment of $70,210. Our planned expenses for this money are 3 teachers at $148,497, 5 instructional assistants for $101,317, a .1 FTE for the strings program at $6,552, a .2 FTE for Spanish instruction for $12,720, and $15,625 for summer sped programming. This totals $284,711, which will leave a projected ending balance of $29,611 in school choice. We also have our circuit breaker projection. Now, this is where we are not for FY15 projecting any revenue in circuit breaker. This is a decrease from FY14 of $77,924. Our circuit breaker funding is undergoing changes due to our ability to educate our special education students in their home school rather than in the more expensive Chapter 766 out-of-district placements. Just to give you some background, in fiscal year 13, we had to expend $225,436 in out-of-district placements in order to generate the $77,924 in circuit breaker funding. In the year previous, we were able to generate approximately $90,000 in circuit breaker revenue by expending $239,000. With the creation of the Horizons program, we are able to provide programming for our students at a cost of approximately $151,624 while generating revenue to support some of the services provided in the program by tuitioning in students from other districts. Our beginning balance in the circuit breaker fund is projected at $3,560, but because the projection is low, we will be awaiting actual figures before projecting expenditures for this account. In FY14, this account was able to fund the Horizon teacher and 2 aides. So after 2 of 11, you have the detailed byline budget, and that's on pages 3 of 11 through 8 of 11. That's the detail. On page 9 of 11, you can see the summary of funding, the difference between the 2013 budget, the 2013 actual, the 2014 budget, and as requested in 2015. Page 10 of 11 is our sources and uses. So you can see that even though our budget for the town is only $2,146,980. We are projecting a total cost to run the school of $2,536,792. The $2,146,980 by town appropriation would represent 84.63% of our budget. School choice will provide 11.22% of our budget. State and federal grants will provide 1.09%. Circuit breaker 0.14%, the early childhood tuitions 0.79%, and school lunch 2.13%. The last page is just a distribution of costs based on the enrollments, and it's broken down by the union and by the region, and the 5-year percentages there also. And that's where we get the percentage of Sunderland increasing from the 12.62 to the 14.01 that I talked about on the allocation of superintendent office costs. We will entertain any questions at this point if anyone has any.
I know I think I've asked a different question about this each time, and as I'm understanding more of it. With the Horizons program, the out-of-district placements, if they were still occurring, would those reflect on our budget or on the town budget? Like, is it like choice where
Students who are from Sunderland, who are in your program, if they were to be tuitioned out of district, that would be yours. That would be your cost. The students who are in the program who are choiced in from others towns would be on their budget.
Does it show? It shows in that would be in our school, in the school budget, the out of tuition place. Because I'm thinking like
Right,
with
we don't have any
choice,
currently.
Right. It's like the incoming comes into the school budget, but the outgoing comes out of the
Oh,
town.
You're thinking it's like
And-
choice.
And I'm wondering,
No, it's
no,
not like
it's,
that for
it's
that,
directly
no,
right on our
right.
budget.
No, so we're not showing any out-of-district tuitions, because right now, all our children are being educated
Right.
here at the school.
Right. Yep. Thanks. I don't know if that,
Yeah,
For
the
those of us
cost
who
of the
know-
transportation and the sped outgoing, any of those those come directly from this budget. And then we had some offset from the circuit breaker money for that.
right.
But that's, yeah. Yeah, it's different. It is different from the regular choice, but that's not a choice. It's a, well, I guess, yeah.
I had a question about the school of choice. Income is, if we get a school of choice student, they come into the building, and then it's determined that they need a one-on-one. Who is, does,
Their
Sending them.
district pays for that.
their district pays for that?
Right,
Okay,
at the
great.
end of the year, we do a reporting to the state and that's what's called the sped increment. So we report if a child is receiving special education services, and we get the $5,000 plus the cost of the sped increment.
Okay,
So
great.
whatever services that they are, using in special education, we bill back the town of origin for that.
Okay, great.
The question on page 2, the increase in district-wide databases, is that a one-time expense?
No, it'll be ongoing,
So it's an add to the budget?
yes.
So remember, with our new, with the new testing, they'll have to do, and when is that, in 2 years?
2 years.
It'll all have to be done online, so that's, part of
And then,
our testing.
the increase in maintenance of building, that's 6,000. Is that specifically only for software? Like, what is
Yes,
that?
that's the maintenance contract.
So the annual cost, and isn't that expected to be offset by the savings?
Yes, and we were able to decrease the heating this year by 15,000 based on last year's.
I was gonna say, yeah, on net, that's a +9, yeah. A +9 in our favor.
It's just separated, so you don't actually get to see the net effect of it because of the way it's broken out.
Yeah, yeah. But it's good to notice, yeah.
I have a question on the salary for the principal. Is that the average salary of what you plan on hiring a principal at? Or have we decided the permanent principal
No,
to be hired?
those decisions haven't been made yet.
That was what we left it at, what was currently budgeted.
Okay.
Capital budget, is there, I don't see anything here for that. What's, and I know we have the boiler is for one of the other, what's your plan for that?
Well, we had talked about going through the, today with Bob
Right.
Leska, the MSBA grant, and to let the selectmen know. Until I can get some further clarification on what constitutes a capital expense, we're not gonna go through that again. Okay, so,
And we're also working with Margaret Nardowitz for a grant for alternative fueling. So we're looking at that. We're looking at that. And then the MSBA project would be closing. It's a short window. So the application process closes on February 14th. We were not ready to submit anything. But what we're going to be doing is working with the select board this year to be ready for next year. Because once you get approved for the repair project, it's 18 months. So they want you guys to be sure that you have the money to fund your share, ready and able. So we will be coming to you to do a presentation on MSBA and when we feel we would want to be ready to apply for that money.
So you're not gonna do any capital this year?
no.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One more, actually, do you have this in electronic format that you could email over?
Sure, you want, I can scan it in and I can email it, would you like me to email it to Margaret?
Yeah, that'd be good, and then she can shoot it around to us, that'd be great, thank you.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yep.
The 3 teachers that
you're looking to add to it, is that a sixth grade, a fourth grade, and another first grade, or in there, do you know yet?
We're not looking to add any teachers. These are all teachers that exist.
Okay, is there any money
Well, that
or
includes fifth grade.
consideration?
That's included in that.
We did make an allowance in school choice budget for one, either to reduce the current, the next year's sixth grade class, or depending on our enrollment, to reduce kindergarten again, as we had to this year.
Okay.
So there is an allowance for one new teacher in school choice.
But the others, I think what you're referring to, the difference in the hiring is that a number of teachers are retiring this year. We'd have to replace those.
Right, right. I was when I look at the division of the classes now, I have, one of my daughters is in third grade, and she was in one class, and we worked really hard to get them divided into two. But next year in fourth grade, there's only one teacher. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that we're kind of staying on that too, because that's a particular class where the composition just works better where there's two.
I believe that we are scheduled to have 2 fourth grades next year.
Yeah. It's just that, yeah, it's gonna have to, teachers are gonna be changing and, right,
I understand that. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Any more questions? Okay, so if no more questions, we will adjourn this portion of our meeting, our public hearing. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Do we need
Make
to
a
do
motion
that?
to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we will reconvene in a bit with our regular meeting,
So, can I ask a
At-
question?
6:30.
So for all the folks that came out tonight, so this budget now goes to the town?
No, now we next,
No,
we'll
we
vote
have
on
to
it
vote
at
on
the
it.
meeting coming up.
In 2 seconds.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna let Marty take a break and look at some news
I have to look and see how many
that you may wanna
cancellations are out
stay
there.
for.
You may be the first to hear.
We don't have to travel today from the cafeteria.
Yes, we're not traveling, it's great. So, yeah, so then we'll discuss the budget and we will vote on it tonight.
And then if the budget is passed, then
It goes to,
they can expect that that will be the money spent.
well, then it'll go to town
Then
meeting,
it goes to town.
But we do
meeting.
have a
Yeah.
meeting with the select board on the 12th,
right, of February.
the 12th of February.
More budget hearings.
More budget hearing.
And the finance committee, I'm sure will be there too. So,
Is that at 6 or 7?
7.
It's at
So we
7.
adjourned at 6:30.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was checking
Yeah.
out.
What is-
All right.
what was that?
I'm just
Is
gonna
that
run out and
upcoming
check
meeting?
on my
What's next?
meeting of February 4th. Next item on the agenda would be to review and approve the minutes of January 21st, 2014. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any questions, comments? And I see you did check on that. The capital request was not.
Yeah.
Was that part of the whole capital thing that was on the ballot?
which,
I wonder if that's why they didn't. Ooh,
I think that's just a typo.
No, I think this was part of the vote one.
9,004. We'll just check that.
Okay, are we all set?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor, we said
Yep.
aye.
We did.
Okay, we did,
Yeah.
sorry. Oh my gosh,
Do it again.
like
We
I've
got
never done this before.
Did you give me the motion?
Amy and then Doug.
Okay.
Financial statements.
Okay, so you have before you your January report, and we do not have any new variances to report. You signed 6 warrants tonight, the monthly expenses, the fiscal agent payroll for January, some expenses for the Horizons program, school choice warrant, the after-school program, and a school lunch warrant, so that was 6. We had a request for additional information from last month's school choice and charter report, and we wanted to see that, the sending by grade, and that was at your place tonight, so for you to look at.
What does that one look like? 'Cause
It looks like,
Doug asked for that.
it looks like this. My hands are cold.
This one.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we have two charters that we send in grade 2 and grade 5. And I believe the grade 2 student is at the Hilltown, and the grade 5 student is at the Chinese, the Pioneer Valley Chinese Immersion Program. Then the school choice sending, we have 2 kindergarten students, 1 grade 1 student, 1 grade 2 student, 2 grade 3 students, 3 grade 4 students, 5 grade 5 students, and 3 grade 6 students for a total of 17. So just to remind you that that is, the cost of the charter, the 2 charters was $34,496, and the school choice preliminarily is $98,160, so that is, the town of Sunderland will be paying $132,656 in school choice and charter sending tuitions.
Is the Hilltown one moving? Is the Hilltown Charter School moving?
They,
Or did
no,
that- No.
yes. No, it's not the Hilltown. The one that used to be in the Brass Works in,
That's
No,
Williamsburg,
Williamsburg.
that's moving to East Hampton. Is that
Yeah, I
Hilltown? Okay,
believe
then they're
so.
going to East Hampton,
I wonder if they'll come back.
so.
Last month, we also had a request to check into the waste removal, and Tracy, you were correct. The DUSOs do the trash removal, the recycling, but we do have Triple T Trucking, and they do the compost removal, and that's cost us $74 per month, and that's up from $70 per month. So
And
that,
it's just the compost?
it's just a, it's a 2-yard front loader dumpster of compost.
Once a month that they
Once a
dump.
month.
Right.
There was
Good
also,
price, actually. Yeah, based on the dumpster in our, for our that's a good, I mean,
that's Triple T Trucking.
right, it's good to know.
That's true. Say it again, Patty.
Also, there was a question if the town of Sunderland was self-insured for unemployment, and they are not. They pay into the fund. And lastly, I included a copy of the warrant article that we will be sending over for the retirements. I sent that to the town administrator via email on the 3rd of February. And that is all that I have, unless you have any
The only thing I
questions.
did want to mention is that DUSO Trucking does not charge us.
Yes.
Right.
So this has been continuing, so someone had mentioned maybe a letter from school committee thanking them for supporting that. I
Yeah.
can certainly do that on your behalf.
I'll send it
if
with
you'd
my
like.
bill. Because I do use
No,
them.
that's nice that they
Marty,
continue that.
It's
but I'll
amazing.
take a picture of some kids like in front of it. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean? 'Cause I think,
Great.
all right,
Yeah, that
so I'll
would be
do
good.
that.
So if you want to send that to me.
Yeah.
and I can-
Yeah, because Mr. Lesko, the maintenance director, sent me a picture of the DUSO dumpster at the high school, and it actually says that it's funded by funding for education, and so it's complimentary. It says it right on the dumpster, so that would be nice.
Thank you, Patty, for.
Yeah,
for
checking that out.
For that and for these numbers on the
Doing more
school
digging.
choice.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
That's what I'm here for.
And we did point that out at the last meeting that we had, the group meeting that we had with our Representative Kulik, the cost that we pay for the charter school and the huge, the amount, that seems endless. Is there a cap on that money?
No, there is not.
And we pay, yeah,
And there is legislation that might be, I had a meeting today, that might be pending out there because we're putting a cap. The purpose of choice was not to pit one district against the other. And, choice is not much of an issue in the eastern part of the state. There's very little choice that goes on because of the proximity of the schools, the locations, and the numbers. Choice is much more of an issue in rural districts. And, we are the recipient of school choice, I mean, to the plus, but some of these local school districts frankly are being decimated by it. And that was not the purpose, so they're looking into putting some sort of cap on it.
in the charter school.
Charter
That's
school,
that's the
yes.
biggie for us.
So,
Thank you. Yeah, that's great, Patty, thank you. I think those last two will Anything else?
Oh, I did give you one other report, and that was the alternate budget funding sources as we had made changes. So you can see the changes that we've made, so you can follow the changes that we made in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just for your information.
And just briefly on we had an issue, I want to say 7 years ago now, on the school cafeteria budget. Do we ever look at that? Because I know that's
That'll be coming up. I will be taking a close look at that when we finish with our budget season. I'll be looking at each of the schools' cafeterias, because since the change of the new legislation, the cost of food is increasing and our participation is down. So I know we did end last year at a deficit. So we are going to be looking closely at that. So I'll bring a report to you March or April with that.
Oh, great, okay. And also the preschool too, how's that?
So far, we're looking okay.
Okay.
We're breaking even on the preschool, and I can update you on the same thing, so I will write those two things down.
Great, thank you. Onward, public comment. Anybody? Anybody? Okay.
We were just saying we agree with revising or looking at the cafeteria issues
Got it.
from the mouths of the children.
It is a tricky balance, I must say, to work with the commodities that we get from the government, deal with the regulations of the requirements for the healthy units, and make it palatable to kids. It really, and keep it at a reasonable rate. It really is it is a challenge.
Thank you. And next item is our proposed FY15 budget. Do I have a motion to accept the budget of, where's that final number, hold on. Dun, dun, dun.
$2,146,980.
2,000,000.
146,980.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Second?
All those in favor? Or no, we should discuss it first. Yes.
Even though we did have the discussion.
I know, we did
kinda
have the
did,
discussion,
but-
but does anybody have any
Anything else?
questions? The board? No? Anyone?
I think that it's the right budget, and I think that sometimes smaller classrooms with singular classroom teachers are better than a lot of instructional assistants. And so that's just what I'd like to add, is that I think it's a very, I think it's a good budget. I think it was thought, I think everybody really thought about it. I think, we kind of went back to the drawing board a couple of times, and I think it's a good plan for the kids and the community, and for also attracting school of choice, which is now a business that we're kind of in. We've brought back all these programs that we lost, 5 years ago, and, we've really got a full,
Yeah.
we've got a nice, what's the word? We've got it all. And, and our kids are really benefiting from that, and I think other communities were attracting those individuals to come here, and it's nice to know that the school of choice, if they come with issues, that town is paying for those issues to support that child and get them through, their elementary years here. And so I think it's great, and I'm voting for it.
Sure. It's okay.
I have no idea really how this works, but this budget has in it a teacher for sixth grade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how and when will I find out or have any way to change it if that gets moved to kindergarten? To put in my.
Yeah,
words.
I don't even think we can
Did you
say.
did you guys already go with this and I didn't really get it?
No, I'd
It's a
say,
good
I mean,
question.
if I go down to my fifth grade classroom, and I know that you guys do it, my kid's almost in the hallway, sitting in a chair, and I'm not sure I'm okay with that. Like, I was okay with it this year, but I'm not really okay with it next year. I don't know if I have to say this now, or if it makes a difference now. Will I know when to say it? If it's not gonna happen, maybe you guys can just give me an idea of when I need to do that, or be aware of it.
be honest with you, we don't really know. We checked yesterday on the potential kindergarten enrollments. The students are currently in our preschool who are going on. And based on the anticipated enrollment, when I talked to Justine earlier in the day, it was 12. By the end of the day, it was 18. It fluctuates so much that it is very difficult. So we're constantly reviewing it. And, you know, at this point in time, I don't know who could move in tomorrow who's currently in 5th grade. So it's something that we take seriously. I appreciate your comments and hearing your concerns, but it's just something we're checking all the time. It's not a good answer, but that's all I have.
Right, it's the best, yeah.
Sorry, I came in late and I apologize for asking a question. So there's the budget numbers here, we have a hard constraint here, financially, that there's only sufficient funds for one additional teacher, is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And how is that hard constraint derived? I mean, is there an expectation that the town would not support a further increase in the budget that we're
Right.
hiring to?
Right.
There is, yeah.
Right,
And so that's a hard constraint that you face when you're
Mhm.
devising the
right.
All right, and part of looking into sources and uses of funds, and again, I apologize, we've covered this extensively. In other points, there is, one of the sources of funds here is school choice. Now, where does that number come from? Is that an expectation? I mean, do we currently have?
That's a
some
fixed,
schools-
we know that number, because we
That
do.
number's solid?
Yes,
Those
yes,
schools will be here
right,
next year.
right. We actually base it on the previous year, so we
Any
don't,
variance? I mean,
No.
I don't know if you use any kind of expectations operator around this, so.
no.
The way we get it, it's a year delay, basically, yeah, so
you already
so
know.
we know
It's
for next
last
year.
year's funds.
The
that
year
we're-
after that,
yeah,
it will be,
This year's
yeah,
funds,
it'll be
yeah,
running, yeah.
Okay.
right, yep. I just want to say, I really, really appreciate the work that Patty has done and Marty Barrett. It's just, it's really been a pleasure to go through this process with them. I appreciate their openness. I appreciate the information that we are getting. It's amazing. We're so transparent. It's just, you know, it makes it a no-brainer for us. It's really nice, Patty. So I really, really appreciate it. To come to this, you know, yeah, it's great. And everybody can see what's going on, and so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Also add a very positive comment. Having 3 kids with soon to 4 in this school, I have to tell you, I really appreciate having Spanish and strings and the instrumental program, because these are programs that and experiences my kids may not get if it wasn't here, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that, saying that. So I want you to know that I appreciate that those things stayed in the budget this year, whereas I know those are typically expendable items that could go. So thank you very much.
Can I add one thing too? When we were talking about the number of teachers being able to expand by more than one, I think we have to go back to the fact that our budget would have been 4% higher. So we would have been bringing the town a budget of almost 7% increase, because we do have this one-time cost of $83,290 for retiring teachers that we owe out. And the town has said, you know, we'll take that up on a separate warrant. Don't add it to the budget. So, I mean, so when we look at $2,146,980, they're also incurring the $83,290. We can't overlook that. That would have added 4% to our budget.
That would have been a one-time expense, though, not a recurring expense.
Exactly.
Correct.
That's why it was
Correct.
requested to be
Right.
broken out,
Right.
because otherwise it would
Yeah.
Right.
It makes a picture that
be a
doesn't.
bad, yeah, that
Right.
would not be a good representation to
Right.
roll it into the.
Exactly.
It's not an operating item.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But it is, I mean, it's
I mean, it is
recurring, and
expense,
it's recurring, and it could happen again when the next set of teachers retire,
It certainly could,
Right.
It's
right.
structural, it's not.
because it's contractual.
Right.
And not all towns would have done that. So we're
Grateful.
appreciative of that, because it would have been an increase of over 6%. So we're cognizant of that when we're looking at how much we're going to increase our budget.
And I think in lieu of Christine's concern here, I want to say there's a way to, at the end of all of this, maybe in June or July, if we saw those numbers, you know, the competing between the kindergarten and 6th grade, we can actually appeal to the town for an increase. And I want to say there is a method. I'm not exactly sure of what that method is, but I want to say there is a way that we can, as parents, you know, just say, we really need this to happen, and how can we add to the budget for that? But that's something, bridge to cross.
Right.
I was
when
gonna
we
say,
have those numbers.
I was gonna say, you know, we're doing this, you know, based on, you know, the best guidance we have as to, you know, at this stage, and it's tough because it's early and we don't know
Right.
some things, but the best guidance we have in terms of what's realistic, in terms of numbers where we can reach to. But as you said, you know, there's different things. We'll get more information, and that may change the picture for better or worse. Hopefully for better. You know, the conversations should always be ongoing. And should be said, thanks everybody for coming out to hear, because it does help us and the town, and you know, and to keep to, you know, as much as you can get to some of these budget meetings that are going to go on, because I think hearing that voice is important. I mean, we've got a rep from the select board here tonight, and I know, you know, they hear it, but it's good to hear it from different folks and have the different conversations and keep that alive. But then there's, you know, the reality of what happens at town meeting, and if there's a number that goes beyond what the Prop 2.5 number is, you know, where does that go? So.
It's still ongoing, it's not done, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables, so stay tuned.
But the school of choice is there's a real market there, and continuing to keep these programs in the building. I mean, Sarah, you've got 17 kids and 6 of them are school of choice.
I think it could actually be more than 6.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty,
Yeah.
that's some income.
About, it's a third of my class is school choice children, absolutely.
So we have a motion in a second.
Okay.
At that point.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
Just to keep track.
Yes.
Well, and the school choice thing is a dangerous thing too, because we're on the positive side, but we've all seen the negative
Yep.
side of that too.
Yeah.
And this gets back to kind of a comment that you were making. You know, it starts with the best of intentions somewhere, but then in terms of how it actually ends up in reality, you're right. The bottom line is we are competing with neighboring communities, right? And in the end, it's really not. We have to question does it really benefit, like in the long run, the state as a whole? You know, when you have to, and you can make some arguments in terms of, you know, there's the academic argument that it's fostering competition and betterment in school, but that's a whole other issue. And then you have then you have the whole choice issue, which not choice.
Charter.
Charter schools, yes. And actually, I have a question. When they were talking about the legislation, has there been any push to, now this is just my personal opinion, but I haven't seen a lot of push to really emphasize let's say the penalty side for performance in charter schools, because one of the whole philosophical reasons for setting up a charter school is that, well, we're going to try something different that in theory is better than, you know, what's going on in the regular public schools. And I think there needs to be a lot more emphasis placed on the performance of those schools, and penalties should be, because we're getting basically penalized from a financial perspective. And I think they need to be held at the very least to match our performance, or actually even a higher level in a lot of ways.
And they actually do. They are put on the same leveling system as the public school. You haven't seen it too much here, but in the more urban areas, they have closed a number of charter schools for poor performance.
They should, I mean, you know.
But they're always granting new charters as well.
Well,
So
that's it,
that's
I
the
know.
other side.
You know, and I think, well, school finance in general is,
Well,
you know,
I could
is
go
got
on
its
for a long time
problems,
on
and this is just, the charter school is just, and makes that problem, I think, particularly stand out, so.
Well, I wonder if people realize too, who are sitting here, as we're having this charter school discussion, when Kids' Choice, that's $5,000. When Kids' Choice to a charter school, they get to decide what they'd like to charge that school. And it can be up to, I mean, we've had them up to
Yeah, it's
15.
18,000.
18,000. So there's such a discrepancy, it's really
Right.
It's quite unbelievable, actually, that you just sort of get handled this bill, as a public school, and we have to pay it. We have to pay it, so there's quite an injustice there.
The Pioneer Valley Chinese, immersion school gets $18,590 per student, and the Hilltown gets $15,906 per student.
How does that compare to the average per student cost?
More than double.
That's more than double.
That's what I'm wondering,
More than
what's the
double. We
number?
talked about this
Yeah.
last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
We said
Yeah.
it was more than double.
Right.
See, that's, well, it's obviously, and
Yeah.
that's something that has to be, well, there were we had a number of discussions at our conference in Boston about that. And this is gonna take years to happen, but I think we really need to start revisiting how schools are actually financed in general. And that's something that we're starting to push at the state level a lot, because we really need to rethink how this standard property tax method of funding, it's not working as well as it could, to say the least. And we need to look at, and then you have the flip side of it too, where, we look at like whatever this budget comes in at, when you have to extrapolate that up to the town level, anything over 2.5% here has to be taken out of something else, or the town has to vote for an override, and we all know how that's gone in the past.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the tough things.
The other piece too, I'd just like to say is that, there's a finite number of students for schools to have choice in. And I'm going to be presenting another report that we just had commissioned for our 4 towns. But in Franklin County, the population, and actually statewide, is decreasing. And they are predicting, not so much with Sunderland, but district-wide, a decrease of 108 students in the next 10 years. And it's a slow and gradual decrease. But if that is happening for our district, it is happening at different rates in other towns. There is going to be a limited number of students, I don't care how many openings you have, who are going to be able to choice in. So I think we have to be very careful in school choice dollars. When it originally started, it was for extras and small things, and then it became a large amount and a real amount, and so people started using it to offset the bottom line of the budget. And I think we have to be careful with that.
And if we have a decreasing population, it's gonna also affect our Chapter 70 funding, because it will affect our foundation enrollment, which determines how much Chapter 70 money. So if there's less students, there's less funding, but if you look at it, our costs are only going to be increasing.
Well, that was one of the things that I noticed too, that would be kinda nice on this budget, is when we do the town budget, we essentially have, looking at it in terms of business, we have our revenues and our expenses, and it would be kinda nice to see that piece kinda rolled into here too, so you can see the revenues versus the expenses.
I think it's
Yeah, we
actually
did.
included.
It's in your,
Is
it's
it
in your
What you got
package.
tonight.
Packet, right?
Yeah. It's one of those
Which one
last
was it,
pages.
the last one?
Yep,
Yeah,
funding sources,
9.
9 of 11.
One of the,
But do you mean, I'm sorry, did you mean to include the Chapter 70 funding in here?
Well,
the town.
overall revenues, in terms of essentially everything that's coming.
Right.
Because, when we're looking at the town budget, we have to look at all of our revenues that come in, and then versus all of our expenses, and then here's your net increase or decrease in the budget, you know what I mean? I think sometimes that helps, folks to look at, the overall picture of that, because then you have to take that into account as it dovetails into the rest of the town budget and everything.
yeah, because one of the reasons I was asking about, I asked Patty to see the outgoing choice numbers by grade, as I suspected, and these are they're relatively small numbers, but we had the kind of big increase in outgoing 5 years ago, and then a little bit of an echo of that when we had to combine the current 5th grade, but then the numbers are smaller in the younger grades, so the cost to the town pretty soon going forward of those outgoing is headed in a lower direction, which good news for the
In that
town,
respect,
for the
right,
town
from a
budget.
strict number standpoint.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Any other questions?
Third the motion.
I think we got everybody
Move the
there.
vote, everybody.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all so much. Next item, and then we just move on. Superintendent mid-year progress report.
You know, before I do that, I think I'd like,
Oop.
especially since we have.
Wait, you want to cancel school?
Pardon? No, I haven't canceled school yet.
Don't say anything, so they'll
I
say.
know.
We're gonna keep you here.
Twice too, you know?
Every phone in the house goes out, the cell phone. Yeah.
What I'd like to go over, and I'm sorry, it didn't appear on the agenda, and it is just a discussion item, but the NESDEC 2013, 2014 enrollment projections. There's a narrative on the front, and you can read that at your leisure. Basically, what they did is I asked them to, this is an organization that we belong to, and they will put together demographic data based upon birth rates, building permits, your ratings with the Department of Revenue. They take all sorts of sources and they do a projection, and it's done 10 years out. So if you go to probably the middle of it, and I'm sure at some point you'll want to take a look at the other towns' data as well. But take a look at Sunderland, and the first page will say Sunderland Historical Enrollment. And it starts with a birth year. I'll just do all of it there. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of charts like this. It's not a bar graph.
Got it. Oh, got it, yep.
Okay, Sunderland Historical Enrollment. So take a look at the birth year in the top left-hand corner where it's 1998. And then go over, follow that where it's pre-K through 12. So you had 392 students enrolled in the district, pre-K through 12, in 1998. In 2008, it was 287.
Wow.
And then if you look at the historical percentage change, that box in the lower right-hand corner, you had a reduction from 2003 to 2014 of 99 students, or 26.7%. Now again, these are predictions. They don't always come true. But I think this is important data to take a look at. If you go to the next page, and I'll just show you quickly because it is a visual, it's a bar graph. And it starts in 2003 to 2013. So you see the 392 down to 287. Now it continues to get a little more interesting when you look at the next one where it's projected enrollment. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner where it says projected percentage changes, at the bottom, we're looking for actually an increase of students, only 11, but an increase from 2013 to 2023, or a 4% increase. Now, it varies from town to town. Some are staying pretty much the same. Conway and Deerfield, we're seeing more dramatic decreases. Whately is staying pretty much even. So I show this to you because I think it's important to pay attention to data. Not that it should drive all of your decisions, because this is just one piece of data, but it's a piece of it, okay? So I did this, I'm doing this for each of the school committees because as we start looking in the future, I'll talk a little bit later about our meeting with Steve Kulik last week. What David had said too about, funding of schools, I think we need to start looking at doing things in a different way. So we can't keep doing the same thing, expecting the same kind of education, if we don't pay attention. So that's just for you to take a look at, and I'm happy to go over it because it's a lot of information at the next meeting if you have questions. And now I'm really gonna excite you with the superintendent's mid-year progress report.
I think this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it
great.
is.
I really like that. Marty, thank you for
Yeah, thank you.
having that done.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I think what's interesting, what data did they use? Like, what years did they use for their projections? I'm just thinking about the last 5 years where we had this massive,
They have some strange statistical program that they can look
Sure,
at
okay.
the birth rates and the, the building permits, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
that they can plug it all in. Now, it's also interesting, I came across an article from a newspaper in 1986, and they were projecting in Deerfield an increase of 384 students, and they were going to have over almost 7,000 people in the town by the year 2000.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
that's why I said, you have to put things in
Well,
perspective.
my first year in school committee of the year before, they wanted to add on another
Big
Yeah.
increase.
wedge onto this school, more classrooms, because, they were just exploding at the seams here, so, and then it just, yeah.
Right.
So.
All right, you are
call me?
excused.
You're gonna call me?
I
Or
will call
Or
you.
are you just telling me to go home and do it?
No, I
No?
haven't, I have no more information, so,
Just to add on to that too, that is a topic that is a concern regionally, not just from the school,
Right.
but it's actually one of our regional selectmen's meetings, that's gonna be one of the topics, is essentially the ramifications of population decrease and what we can do about that. Because I'm on the Regional Economic Development Council, and one of my big things is to try to push to get jobs out here and I'm really pushing for marketing of the valley to get, because we need new people out here.
right.
So that's a whole other thing that we're trying
It
to push.
is, but it's important, so.
Thanks,
Good night,
Patty.
Patty.
Thanks so much,
Good night.
Patty.
We're gonna send you a thank you note.
I know. We're not gonna stand by the dumpster either, for a picture.
We're gonna hold
Something
hands
totally
around the
different.
dumpster.
Who's singing?
She was crazy. Fantastic.
Okay, do you want to move on to superintendent goals? Okay, so I am required to inform you of my progress in the middle of the year. So that's what you have, this large document with a clip on it. And I'm going to say from the outset, this is our first year, it's our pilot year. At the end of the year, you are going to have to fill out a summative evaluation. So hold on to this, I'll hold on to it. And because this will hopefully be helpful when you do that. So if you take the clip off, whoops, and throw it around, you take the clip off, you will find that groups of paper are stapled together, and each one of those represents a goal. So I think that's the easiest way for me to walk you through this, okay? So you look on the first page, and it's goal number 1. If you go down to just a little bit more than halfway, it says steps to attain the goal. Okay, you with me there? And then you flip it to the next page. What I've done for each of the goals is break down the steps to obtain the goal and telling you where we are, okay? So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but for instance, direct administrators to develop rubrics pre-K through 12 for narrative, argument, explanatory, and literary writing. Right now, we have rubrics for K-12 genres in narrative and argument writing, as well as K-6 explanatory, but we're still working on literary genres, which are poetry units, and we'll continue with those. And then I've attached for you some genres so you have examples, because one of the things that's required of me, as well as the principals, as well as all the teachers, is you have to upload artifacts. You can't just say that you're doing what you're doing, you have to show that you're doing. So these are the artifacts that are attached. Align district assessments with Mass ELA curriculum frameworks. We have done that. Integrate writing instruction and assessment into all content areas. It has for the core content areas in grades 7 through 12, or all content areas 7 through 12, and core content areas for grades 1 through 6. Louise Law has been extremely busy doing grade level meetings. The next goal is providing the professional development to faculty in all areas across the content areas. Louise has done that. We have brought in outside people. Calibrated assessment in writing is ongoing during grade level meetings, and this is happening for having writing genres and calibrating writing samples. One of the things she did, I had a chance to sit in on a couple of the grade levels. She got all teachers together, brought authentic writing samples from the classroom. Teachers sat down and used the rubrics to assess the writing so that when they walked out of there, they knew what a second grade piece of writing, should look like, or a third grade, or a fourth grade. And there's a rubric that says whether it's developing or where it is on the line. So that's goal number 1. I've also included for you some curriculums from elementary and secondary. I wanted you to see that. Now, the first 3 goals are all consistent with all the principals, so that they're going to have the same kind of reporting out. If you look at goal 2 and the steps to obtain the goal, and then go to the next page. What we've been doing is we've been holding administrative meetings on a rotating basis. I had told you that at each school. We've been going in as teams of administrators into different classrooms, calibrating the observation form. So that has occurred. Adhere to the schedule created to conduct mini observations. I've attached the monthly schedule and contribute additional artifacts as possible. What we're doing is using the DES's conditions for effective schools. As I meet with the principals, we're going over that when I'm doing their evaluations. So I've included, again, to show that we are doing what we say we are, an administrative schedule. I've included sample agendas that show different schools, and that observation and mini classroom observations are on every schedule, and just the synopsis of the conditions for effective schools. So that's goal 2. Goal 3, where's my goal sheet? Goals 3 through 5, 3 through 7 are all on one page. And I am blanking, I'm not finding it where I need it to be. Do you have, you do, yeah, I am missing that on mine.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay. So by June 2015, which is a year from now, 75% of classroom instruction and learning will be directly linked to the Mass frameworks. So we have all of our curriculum on the software program Atlas. And so what I've included in the back, I just took a grade 6 writing curriculum, and then I included some rubrics for that. And then I have a middle school grade 7 English curriculum. What I like about having, we used to years ago, you'd print out the curriculums, they'd be in a notebook, you'd put them on your shelf, and this is great. These are kind of living, breathing documents because teachers can go in and access the curriculums, they can modify the curriculums as it changes. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Goal 4, teachers will be evaluated using the DESE approved teacher evaluation. I can't stress enough how hard our principals are working doing this. So what I have included, this is from my computer, an actual screenshot. I took 2 administrators, Sarah Mitchell and Janine Heil. The first 2 pages are Sarah Mitchell. If you look on the far left-hand corner, it says Observation 1, and it lists all the teachers that she has to observe. You look in the far right corner, and it says whether they're complete. Now, this is just one observation for all of these teachers. They then have to do multiple observations. They have to do a formative, and they have to do a summative. It is probably the most time-consuming initiative that I have seen in my many, many career years. If you go 2 pages in, you'll see Janine Heil, Caesar for Deerfield. And the number of teachers, most of our principals are doing about 22 teachers, especially in the larger schools. There's a limited number of administrators that can actually perform this function. I am hopeful that it's going to have an impact on classroom instruction, but I will also be honest that the jury's still out.
So you said, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
with the observation, then there's like a summative and
There's a formative, which is kind of your mid-year, and then there's a summative.
okay,
But with the observation, and I think I showed it to you when I initially presented my goals, we are using a software system called Oasis, My Learning Plan, so that you can go in with your iPad or you can print it out, and there's a form on there. So we spend a great deal of time as administrators making sure that if I walked into a classroom, and one of the things that people are evaluated on is percentage of teacher talking, student talking, that you and I would see the same thing. If we saw, a teacher doing 90% of the talking, that you didn't see 50% and I saw 90%, that we were kind of on the same page. So we spent the fall doing that. Once that observation is complete, that is then sent to the teachers so that they have feedback on that observation. That's what these long this page is representing. This is representing that each one of those teachers received that initial observation,
right.
got feedback on it, and then administrators have to go back in.
And so, what this doesn't show is like in any one of those individual lines of observation, then there's a bunch of things that are
Comments and
being
rubrics
val-
and, yes,
evaluated
yes.
for each
It's
one
not
of
just
those.
somebody walking into a class.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So it is a very, I think it's good. It forces administrators to get into the classrooms. It is also something that I can go on my computer and see what administrators are in what classrooms. It's sort of Big Brother, but it is helpful in that if somebody's having difficulty doing that, I can address that. And I wanted to show it to you because I think, I think principals need to be applauded for this because it's a lot of work.
Marty, how much time is this? I mean,
Well, Mr. Ben, you wanna?
I know Ben and I kind of talked about that a little bit, because I just can't imagine fitting this into and the teachers. I just can't imagine fitting this into a day where you are also, trying to just connect with kids and doing everything else that goes along with that.
Yeah, each observation, the length varies. Sometimes they're 15 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour. And in a way, you are filling out the report as you're in the classroom.
As you're in the classroom.
You need to, dot your I's, cross your T's, and
Right.
Write comments additionally afterwards. So sometimes it could take up to 45, 50 minutes per observation altogether between classroom time and going back and finalizing it.
It's a lot of work for teachers too, because a lot of the responsibility is put on their shoulders to upload those artifacts and documentation. So, they have to think thoughtfully about, what they are going to use to present. And so it's a daunting task for,
In this particular year, it's a big learning curve.
it is.
I can imagine.
And where we're also implementing our new writing curriculum. So teachers are definitely feeling, we're learning a lot of new things this year. But it's stretching us in good ways too. But in terms of sheer time, when you're uploading your artifacts, and also depends on how technologically savvy you are.
Right. That was my question. Do the teachers or the administrators have technology do you have iPads to do this, or is it handwritten report?
All of the administrators have iPads, and we do have instructions that we pass on to teachers, but for uploading, if you haven't done it, and you don't
Right.
do it on a regular basis,
Right.
it's difficult,
chunk
you
of
know, it is
time
a
to-
huge,
yeah.
and you have to
Catch up.
find
Use staff
somebody.
meetings to brainstorm what artifacts would fit in each category and also how to upload the artifacts as well.
But this is a challenging year. We have an awful lot of mandates coming down from the state. We've put a lot of pressure on our teachers. We have a new report card, we have a new writing curriculum, we have a new evaluation system. You know, we have retail, MassTel, you name the acronyms. It's a challenging year. And I recognize that and applaud, excuse me, everyone for their, you know, efforts to do this.
I don't think people have a clue.
I don't think, it's gonna, your average
No, I don't think
person,
they
I really
do.
don't think they do.
So that's goal 4. Goal 5. Goal 5. As you know, technology is been a major concern of mine, and I think we're making some really good strides. We have come up with a new tech committee, the tech employees, and so what I'm doing is we have bi-monthly reports that I get from the tech director outlining district problems. I have a sample that we've attached. We have a team now that works efficiently. They meet every morning. They decide who's going where based upon the need. We are working towards uniform platforms, but this is gonna take time and money because right now we have operating systems that don't talk to each other. We have kids who have, you know, Windows 7, XP, and they'll come in with something on a flash drive, they can't print it out, and you can't just do that overnight. There's money involved. And documentation describing the ticket response for work orders. In order for our teachers to have a work order completed, they have to go online and fill out a ticket request. And we do that so that we can keep track of what work is outstanding. My goal is to have non-duplication of tickets, so that if a teacher is calling because they have a problem with a printer, that problem is fixed, and not just a Band-Aid to, so that it breaks again in a week. So what I've included is a summation, a sec page of observations of what a well-functioning team is. I get reports on a regular basis from our tech director, and I feel that we're moving in the right direction. I'm not as patient as I probably should be. I would like it moving quicker, but it is what it is, so. And the next two I've kind of combined. These are the fact that I felt I needed to be in the schools as much as I could, and in the community, so I've included my logs. As you see, I started Great Guns in September and October. Hit Thanksgiving in December, the holidays, things went downhill a bit. But I'm picking up again in January, and ironically, tomorrow was my day to be in the schools. So I don't know whether or not I will be there.
Reach out the sledding hill.
I know. So I've also included, this is this format is just a DESI chart, and it basically has taken all of my goals that I just talked to you about, and it broke them down into key actions, who's responsible, and for the timeline and the frequency of it. So that's what I have for you. I will be presenting you with a final update of my goals in June, and then probably in April or March or April, I'll bring to you the form that you're gonna need to fill out to submit.
Are we uploading?
You don't have to upload anything. You don't have to do any of that.
Not yet,
Not
anyway,
yet.
right?
And the form that you actually have to submit is a pretty simple one, but it's gotta represent everything that I
Everything
have
that's on
here.
here.
Yeah. So that's what I have.
Which we've always done, yeah, we've done that evaluation in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They put it all together, right?
Yeah.
But this is, right, yeah,
Yeah.
this is great, thank you.
Okay?
Again, very helpful. Excellent information, thank you.
Very well.
Next,
My binder clip.
we have not had our Frontier meeting yet. We'll have that next week. We're early because of the, and you're gonna speak to the meeting that we had last week, which was
Yep.
great. Can't say enough about that. It was just a really open, discussion with finance members, a lot of school committee members from the entire district, and Representative Kulik, and just really forward-thinking. It was really nice, I thought. I just, a great meeting. I think, oh, and on a personal note, I mentioned it before, I will not be running again for school committee. I've been here for 9 years, and
This is official?
yes, it's
this your-
official.
Is this your last?
No.
This
For a
is,
term?
no.
No.
yeah, this is the last year of my current term.
I thought you were gonna say last meeting.
It's not our last
No,
meeting.
it's not my last meeting. No, I'll be done in April, I think, or May. And so, well, and the reason I'm saying it here and now is because,
Like in 2 months?
yeah,
Do we get a vote?
is, that's very sweet, but no, you don't. Because the caucus is March 3rd or 4th, and so I encourage anybody that's interested to go to the caucus, because the caucus, you know, you go and you have somebody represent you and nominate you, and your husband goes and nominates you when you're not there. And so, yes, I, encourage anybody, but that's all I have. Next is the collaborative.
Oh, yeah.
They made a decision.
Did they make a
Yeah.
They did.
So, I don't know the status of contract negotiations, but pending contract negotiations. Bill Deal has been, selected as the new executive director. And I was on the screening committee, and I can't say enough good things about him. I was really, really impressed in every way, by his commitment, his articulation of what he thinks is important, what he would do. I was more impressed than I expected to be going in, and so was really happy with that. And so I was hoping the full group of the board would go with that, and they did. And so that's
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Side note,
Yeah.
Bill Deal and I went to Conestoga High School together.
Oh yeah.
Berwyn, Pennsylvania.
Stop.
Yes, we both served on the same newspaper. So
Oh
cute
my
little
God.
redhead back in the day.
What a
So,
small
and it's so funny.
world.
Yeah,
I know.
he moved up here and he started with a collaborative 3 years ago. And so I was at a
Wow.
meeting and I thought that was an unusual name. And I said, "Are you Bill Deal who went to Conestoga High School?" And he goes, "Are you Marty Holmes?" I was like, it was so funny.
That's
He's
amazing.
Small
It
world,
is.
yeah.
And he is a really good person.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
And the collaborative, it does a lot of great things, so
Yeah,
we're
they
lucky
do.
to have a
They have a lot
great
of great
leader.
services.
I think I see now how the outgoing director Joan Schumann, who's been great, and further evidence of her smarts, bringing him in, and not that it was by any stretch of the imagination, a rubber stamp at all, and national search was conducted, but she recognized
Yeah.
what he
Nice.
brought, and so
That's great.
yep.
Principal Barshewski.
Am I up?
You're next.
All right.
You've been so quiet over there.
Been waiting patiently.
You have been.
So last Wednesday, January 29th, we hosted International Night at Sunderland. We had approximately 120 different guests show up for the evening, potluck style dinner, and we had dishes from 12 different countries.
Great.
And the food was delicious. We have so much culture in the building here in Sunderland. It really brought it out that night. And then the evening was capped off with a performance by Abdou Sarr, who's from Senegal, and some dancing, drumming, and good times. So it was a really cool event. We are officially the Sunderland Eagles.
Eagles.
Go Eagles.
As voted by the students. They beat out the Tigers, 58 votes to 50 votes.
Oh, very
I
good.
know,
Wow, that was close.
No recount from the students was requested though,
Demanded.
so. And students are now submitting artwork to go along with that logo. The past 2 days, grades 5 and 6 participated in an anti-tobacco program called Tar Wars. I almost said Star Wars there. It was run by a Boston University medical student, and they touched on everything from financial costs of tobacco use to health issues. So it was really informative and a good experience for the kids. Upcoming events on Thursday. This is good timing. The 4th grade will be traveling to Northfield Mountain for snowshoeing.
I think there'll be plenty of it,
I
yes.
think so, yeah. And Friday there's a pajama party with Roger Tinknell. And Tracy, do you know
Yeah,
you know all about this guy?
I know
huh?
all about it, yeah.
So
He's gonna play, he's got little creatures and a million different instruments, and everybody wears pajamas and there's snacks, and they bring their pillows, and they all dance around, and, I mean,
He's
your
awesome.
son, your grown son knows all the songs, you know what I mean? Like,
Great.
I mean,
Oh, that's
he's a
fun.
legend.
Roger's come
Yeah,
here for
he is.
years,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's come for
yeah.
years. He's
that's a
fantastic.
cool experience.
It's
Next,
free,
it's free.
it's free, and it's Friday night at 6:30.
What better way could you spend your Friday evening?
I
than-
can't think of,
You can't just abandon your kids for the night there, but,
yeah, that's a
Oh,
good
it's for
point.
the
But
kids,
It's not a
for the-
drop off.
yeah, okay.
but it's
Not a drop off, but that's
No,
an
but-
interesting idea.
for the future.
That would be a way to make it a fundraiser.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
Right,
There you go.
note to self there. So.
Some enterprising sixth graders.
yes.
Next Monday, a small group of 6th grade students with myself, a couple other administrators in the district, and other students in the district as well, are traveling down to the Soldiers Home in Holyoke and delivering Valentine's Day cards for the veterans. And so on Monday, the students at Sunderland spend time in their art class making up Valentine's Day cards. And next Thursday is the Frosted Fun Run. And I was part of the Fall Fun Run, but it's a way of promoting physical health and activity
Where do you run?
around the building.
Oh, it's not
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah, it's just around the building.
Ah.
Yeah, many times.
Many times.
Maybe ice
Keep
cube
it going.
stops instead of water stops.
Great.
Snow cones. Snow cones. Right.
Real snow.
And that's it from the principal's department here.
Thank you. Superintendent Garrett.
Okay, yeah, before I begin my report, I just wanted to mention the passing of Marshall Aronstam, who was a longtime principal and teacher here in Sunderland, and great friend of mine, great supporter. I told Justine of a story that I'll share with you. I had been asked, oh gosh, back in the 90s, he had suffered an illness and required surgery to come in and be interim principal back in the old building. And it was a difficult time because this building was under construction, and then the pipes burst, and it meant a delay of 6 months to move into this building. And it was decided that Marshall would go back into the classroom and that I would take over as principal. And you know, I was not sure how that would work. He'd been a longtime principal. Here I was coming in as a young newbie, and you know, he could have made my life difficult or not, but he chose to go out on his own expense and had stationery printed up with my name on it as principal. And I just thought that was the most generous, you know, thing to do. He was always very supportive of me, So anyway, there is going to be a celebration of his life. There's no funeral services at Frontier on March 2nd in the afternoon. It's a Sunday, and there'll be more information about that. But I don't know if any of you know him, but he was a great guy.
There's
Leslie Woodline's dad.
Yeah.
And his daughter
teacher.
Leslie teaches here, and I think Molly is doing his
Yeah, Molly's
granddaughter.
has been doing some of her student
Yeah.
teaching work in our pre-K.
Right.
And she has subbed a couple times as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So the family's very integrated. Two of his children, Leslie and Lori, are both teachers. And so education and the schools, you know, were always so important to Marshall. Could always find him on a field somewhere at Frontier. He went to every game. And he had an opinion about every sport. So he was a good man. So, segueing into my report, we did have our four-town safety meeting recently at Frontier. This is an important effort that I want to keep in the forefront. I think it's really easy to practice a drill and then let it slide. I think it's something that you constantly need to address. What we did for this particular situation is there were scenarios that were created, real-life scenarios, you know, and it didn't always deal with somebody breaking into the school. It could be a train derailment. It could be an angry parent. It could be a fire. And we broke up into teams with the principal, police, and emergency personnel on each team, and then they had to address the situation and report back to the group. In conjunction with this, the local and state police have been conducting how to deal with an active shooter, and they've been using Frontier during the weekends, 3 weekends in a row. So I think it's just important for people to practice safety protocols. I know Ben has been doing lockdown drills, have been doing fire drills, but it's a balance between having kids feel prepared and safe and not having them be paranoid about it. And so we try to strike that balance as best we can. Along with the mid-year progress report that I gave to you earlier, I've been meeting with the principals to review their mid-year progress. So it's an interesting time to have a discussion with them, to hear about their goals, and it will conclude with my writing a summative evaluation of them as well. And as Justine mentioned, we had a special meeting of the Frontier School Committee on the 23rd last week. And we had select board, finance boards. They were here to hear about the budget from Steve Kulik, who was also there. We also got a report from Andrea Lamas, who's the chair of the subcommittee for long-range planning. And again, for all the things that I talked about earlier, I've also, I think it's important to keep in mind, we have a lovely color-coded chart that looks like this.
I've been studying this.
And it's interesting because this tells you, you know, when you talk about school choice numbers, where these students are coming from. And we have, if you look at the totals on the far right-hand side, the largest sending districts are Gil-Montague, Greenfield, Hatfield, which surprised me, and Mohawk. Now this is, again, there's a breakdown by school at the top, and this is district totals. But when you look down at the bottom number here, we have 311 students that are choicing into our district. That is an entire school.
Right. Yeah.
Population. So I think it's, you know, it's important to be mindful of this. I don't really take a lot of pleasure in having 104 students from Greenfield. Right. I understand it, but you know, it is also disconcerting to me because I know how many millions of dollars they are having to spend away from their budget. So these issues that we continually talk about, I think it's important to have the correct information, not to speculate, and to really look at our populations, about how our schools are funded, and are we going to try to do anything different? So that's what I have.
It's great. This is, yeah, everyone,
Yeah.
this is just,
You're going to get a lot of
great
stuff from me
highlight.
because I like data.
That's great.
So-
but it's excellent. 311.
Yeah.
So, when I look at this, Marty, down at Frontier Regional, Sunderland has 124 kids from Sunderland go to Frontier?
Yes,
Yeah.
but Tracy, that's
That's a lot.
not, no. Okay, I think you're looking at it incorrectly. 124 students in Frontier, no, let me say this again.
Yeah, total.
Total,
7
Total.
through 12.
pre-K through 12.
No, that's
No,
124
7 through-
is,
sorry.
124 is, yes, 7 through 12 at
7 through 12.
Frontier.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are from Sunderland.
Are from Sunderland.
Right. There's 617 total at Frontier, 128 choice in.
Right.
But that's the makeup. That's like the makeup from each town, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Do you know,
Yeah.
it's not,
No, I'm
So
curious
more-
what Deerfield is.
So more choice in to Frontier than are sent from Sunderland or then even
All
Sunderland.
4 towns.
Yeah.
Right.
That number just jumps out for
Other
some
than
reason.
Deerfield,
That's
probably,
a
right?
lot of
The
kids.
Deerfield number.
Yeah, the Deerfield number isn't there.
Well, anyhow, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's really useful.
Yeah.
But that just because there's always this like sort of percentage that we owe to Frontier, you know, as the town, one of the 4 towns.
Right.
So I was just curious about, you know,
Right.
kind of who we are in that percentage. And this looks like we're really somebody.
Right. Oh, yeah, we're the,
Oh,
yeah.
you're the second
You're the
biggest
second.
you're the
school.
second.
Okay.
Deerfield, Sunderland, Conway, Whately.
Conway,
there's-
Whately. Whately is by far the smallest.
Right.
You know, and that's something, you know, I reported last night to the Whately School Committee. Whately only has 75 students
Yep.
in their school
Resident.
that are residents.
Right. Right.
So, you know,
That's incredible.
yeah, and they used to be about 140. And the projections are, when I presented the NESDEC report to their school committee, it's not going down, but it's not increasing.
No, they're not robust.
Yeah.
They're,
Right.
they're flatlined.
Right. You called us robust.
Right.
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 Because we're really bringing it.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
No, it's growing. It is.
The Hatfield one totally surprised me.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised by that number.
Really surprised by that.
Because I thought they were half school of choice coming into their
They
building,
are.
just like Whately. Okay. And they seem about the same size as Whately.
But I know at
I
like
feel
Frontier, I know a ton of kids that are at, yeah, I mean, I know a couple of them, they come because there are more offerings. I mean, how many things can you offer at Hatfield with how many
Right.
kids in their high
Right.
school?
They're going to graduate with
You know.
18 kids or something,
Right,
right?
right. And I literally have people, when I have people moving here from out of the area that have gone to Hatfield and said, well, if my kid doesn't get along with 2 of the kids or one of the kids in the class, that's it. There's no one else to play with.
Right.
You know, it's like, you're
It's
it,
just very
you're done.
small and, yeah.
And you're with them forever. It's not like we're here, you do have that small school, and then you all go up to Frontier, and you've got at least, you know, it's a
Everybody
little more of a
branches out,
variety.
yeah.
Right, so, anyways, is that it? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Excellent. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Anybody have anything else? No?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Motion?
So moved.
You wanna second it, Tracy?
All
I'll
those,
second it.
all those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And this is at 7:50.
Is that mine?
That's not happy.
Yeah.
All right, let's see